Detroit Den 313. We're back, Stephen Will, talking that Detroit Lions football. Before we get started, you know what to do. Bang that subscribe button and do not forget the bell icon so you don't miss any of our new content. Steve, sad to say, the draft is over. I
It
could have
is.
watched Brad Holmes draft up until the season started, if I'm going to be honest, the way things were going. But it's come to an end. What the heck are we about to talk about now?
Well, real quick, you know what I just don't understand is since we've been doing this podcast stuff, I've just realized that you'll never make everyone happy. You just
Oh,
never
buddy.
will. I've seen a lot of people questioning Brad Holmes, especially about the draft. Oh my God, we gave up both of our third round picks for corners. Shut the hell up. Yeah, we did give up third round picks for corners. You know why? Because our defensive our defensive passing game sucked last year. That's why you give up some assets, you get your corners. Guy, I think we're just trapped in this Lions mindset of the draft is our Super Bowl, and it can't be gotten rid of, I guess, because third round picks for two guys who are going to come out, one's going to start, one's going to fight to start. I don't care about third round picks, but today, what we're going to talk about is Brad Holmes wasn't done after the draft. He wasn't done, William. I think he signed some undrafted free agents that I really like. And, we've talked about, like, last year we're getting into like the Stephen Gilmore's, Coda. We're talking about some guys who are undrafted free agents who are fighting to make the team. What's that kid? Dylan Drummond, kid from Eastern Michigan. We talked about quite a bit.
Yeah.
Kids that were fighting to scratch and make this team. But the problem is the Lions are pretty loaded. We've got a pretty solid depth chart from top to bottom. But I do like a lot of I got about 4 guys on my list that I really like. We're not going to talk about them all, but there's 4 guys on my list that I really like that Brad Holmes assigned to an undrafted free agent contract. I'm curious to see how they come in and fight. William,
Yes, sir.
is there anyone on this list that stuck out to you?
No, in the show.
Well, I guess I'm
I'm
doing
just
solo
kidding.
for the rest because I had to narrow it down to 4.
Hey, Steve. No, I'm obviously I'm kidding, and no disrespect to these guys, man. For those of you that don't know, I had a very close family cousin of mine, like a brother to me, that's been a guy that's fighting on the bubble. So, nothing but respect for these guys that are fighting for positions and trying to join a roster, and I hope that they make a roster somewhere. But as I go through this list, I just don't know how any of these guys make the team.
They got their
And
work cut out for them.
and that's not to throw shade, that's not to be mean. Young men have poured their heart and soul into trying to become an NFL football player, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for that. And I'm cheering for them to make a roster. And if they're good enough to make the Detroit Lions roster, I'm cheering for that too. But while I will hit on some guys with you that I think have a little bit of game, I don't know how anyone on this list makes the Detroit Lions roster that I've seen so far.
I think I'm talking practice squad guys. I don't think either any of these guys are going to make the roster, but I hope to have them stick around.
I know, but
okay.
Antoine Green is probably going to end up on our practice squad.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good problem.
I mean, it's good problems for the Detroit Lions organization to have, but if you're a young guy that's trying to come in, it's tough, man. It's tough. Like, there could be a world where Sione Vaki ends up on a practice squad to start the season. So, I mean, like, if you're a guy that's an undrafted free agent, it's tough. You're in a tough situation, man. You're in a tough situation. As I'm looking through the list, even with our edge rushers, man, these guys, man, it's just a tough situation. But I will say, I think the elephant in the room is Isaiah Williams. He's a guy who maybe he can potentially make the team as a punt and kick returner, maybe. And then maybe he'll get an opportunity to contribute as a receiver. But he had some production at Illinois. He had a down year last year a little bit, but he's had some production. He's been a good player. But golly, man, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, J-Mo, Donovan Peoples-Jones. It's a tough.
Tom Kennedy.
Easy on TK85, but in all seriousness though, so if TK85 is on the practice squad,
that's who he's fighting with.
Are you gonna take his spot on the practice squad? Antoine Green, Are you going to take his spot on the practice squad? It's just a tough situation, man. I didn't even mention Raymond. So I mean, it's uphill battles, man. Uphill battles for these guys. But flip side of that, if these guys get cut, they have an opportunity to go to any team in the NFL. And if I was going to go to an organization right now, the Detroit Lions would definitely be. Obviously, I'm biased, but just trying to step outside of that bias window, they would be probably one of the top 5 organizations that I would want to be a part of, want to learn from, want to see what it's like, and then to maybe help propel me and get prepared for life with a different team. So, but yeah, I think the elephant in the room, if you're really going to talk about somebody on this list high, would be Isaiah Williams. How do you feel about Isaiah Williams?
Well, what caught my eye the most was that the Lions paid him a $240,000 signing bonus, the highest of any undrafted free agent that the Detroit Lions have signed. So that caught my eye. Started to do a little homework. I started saying, all right, maybe this is a guy that they're looking at to really compete. Maybe this is, the guy that's 54 on the depth chart. I like his athleticism. Converted quarterback to wide receiver. His first 2 seasons at Illinois, he was a quarterback, emerged as a slot receiver and punt returner. 5'9", quick, shifty. And he was also a team captain for his final 2 years at Illinois. And Illinois, they put up a team a couple years ago. If you remember, they came into Ann Arbor a couple years ago, the game that Blake Corum got hurt. I want to say they were like 9-2 or something to that. Like they had a team out there that was fielding a pretty good team. They weren't flashy, they weren't sexy, but they were beating some teams. So to be a captain of a 9-2 Illinois team, one of their better teams in recent history, kind of caught my eye, that signing bonus, and then kind of doing some dive in, looking at them and kind of remembering where Illinois was pretty recently. Usually they're like a whipping boy for the Big Ten, but they put out a squad a couple years ago. Kirby Joseph came from there, Devon Witherspoon, a guy we were high on. Jerzon Newton just got drafted out of there, so that they're getting some talent here slowly. But we're not going to be talking about Illinois. The Big Ten and all that's changing, but they have put together a nice little program where they put some talent out there.
Yeah, I agree. I'll take nothing away from it.
I'll tell you who's on my list.
Talk to me.
Oh man, I just hit refresh on my list here, fellas. Bear with me here. First show, I apologize.
This first time with technology.
I just want to. I want to get my facts straight, so I'll just keep shooting the shit until you guys.
Just taking my time here. Just do we need like
Brian Hudson? Brian Hudson from Louisville.
Lineman.
Yeah. What jumped out to me with him was 1 sack last year he gave up in the ACC. Was he 6'5", 315-ish pounds? Like, I like his size. I like his versatility. He could play guard, center. That's something we kind of talk about here is, guys who could play multiple positions. Very productive, had a PFF grading of 98.8. That's pretty damn good. That'll catch your attention right there too. Giving up 1 sack last year. Again, I think we agree that during the draft the last couple of days, one of the things that the Lions needed to address was some O-line depth. We added Thor. I can't even Manu. Added
Manu.
Christian Mahogany. We added some depth. So who is he going to be competing with when he comes to training camp? I'm looking at like a Dan Skipper, Awasika, Colby Swordsdahl. Like those are the guys you probably got to watch out in that grouping of offensive linemen where maybe, just maybe he beats them out, but I don't know. I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet on it either, man. And plus, you're fighting against their upside as well. So maybe he's a guy that can make the practice squad and then get an opportunity to develop. But making this roster is going to be an uphill battle. I'll be flat out honest. I didn't watch film on him, so I don't even want to speak to him from an uneducated standpoint. But I was just I did watch film on most of these guys. And I just kind of got into the mindset of it's uphill battles that these guys are facing. And what I don't want to, and I'm not saying that's what we're doing, or I don't want to undermine anything that we're going to talk about. But what I don't want to come on here is just blow smoke, man. And as I go through this list, to me being honest, there's 2 guys that I see that could potentially be on this roster, and for me, Isaiah Williams is one if he gets a little return action and he makes the team like that. And then the other one would be Maurice Norris out of Fresno State. And the reason I say that about Maurice Norris is this: he's a guy who is listed as a corner, but he can play safety. And his ability to be versatile and play special teams, he might be able to fight for that last roster spot. And on a team where it's already been put out there that we're looking for a little bit of safety help. He's a guy that could be somebody that could be a body, a nice warm body that could help out on special teams, and then maybe find a niche somewhere and get an opportunity. But as I go through the rest of this list, man, it's just Nate Lynn was a guy from William and Mary. I like him. I think that maybe he's a guy, if he gets a couple years in the league, who could develop. But today, he's getting cut. No disrespect.
We've already got a William and Mary project on our hands with Colby Swordsdahl.
Yeah, so I mean, he's a guy that potentially could develop down the line. He had all types of sacks out there for William and Mary. He's a guy that plays the game nasty and violent. I like his mentality, but it's hard to play nasty and violent with guys that are just bigger, stronger, more technically sound, more educated on the game, and just better. So it's hard to come out there and play nasty with guys that are just bigger, stronger, and better than you. So can he develop? He's somebody that I think that could develop. Isaac, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, but my man from Ole Miss. He's a guy he's a guy that I liked. He shows a pulse of some things that he could have a little bit of game. He was in college for 17 years, though. I think he transferred from James Madison. No joke. He was in college for like 7 years.
Yeah, he's been around for a while.
Yeah. So he's a guy who he needs to get it together sooner than later because he's working against the clock. So
Father Time's undefeated.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. So he's a guy that I think has the potentials. But when I go through the rest of this list, man, Detroit then 313. I don't come on here and waste your guys' time, and I don't really see guys that are gonna end up being on this roster. Deron Gilbert from Northern Illinois. I am cheering for you because you're a Detroit kid. But when I looked at the film, it's hard to see you on this roster, buddy. So maybe again, he's another one. Maybe he can find a niche on special teams and work his way in. But I don't know, Steve. Is there anybody on this list that you truly see on the roster when this thing we go final cuts?
Honestly, no. And it's just goes to show that this is just the roster that the Lions have built. Like we've added O-line depth, so the O-linemen we've signed to UDFA contracts. Probably not going to make it. Same thing with a lot of the defensive backs. Like we just fully addressed that in the draft and the whole offseason. I think if you're going to make it, it's probably going to be because someone's a little banged up, or maybe you really shine on special teams, or maybe you make plays in every single preseason game and practice that's just, impossible to cut you. But the odds just tell me that that's probably not going to be the case, because I think Stephen Gilmore really played very well last year and he still didn't make the team. So it's tough. And like you were saying, I'll kind of piggyback off it. The Lions are loaded. We don't know what other kinds of contract offers these guys had from other teams. I don't know why. I mean, I get why you would choose the Lions to come in and get experience, but if you're really looking to make a roster, and I'm not trying to throw any shade, but there's teams like Carolina out there that you probably could have, partied up with and tried to make their roster. But just looking at the Lions, like we're gearing up for a Super Bowl. Like, let's just not beat around the bush. Like, we want guys out there. We want to be deep, all 53 guys. We want to have some studs and, next man up. These guys got their work cut out for them. Cheering for them, but I think the odds are just obviously stacked against you, especially when the team really hasn't invested anything in you, like a draft pick. Like we're talking about $240,000. It's a lot of money to you and me. To the Detroit Lions, that's a night out at dinner. So it's really nothing. But
pulling guy, yeah. And then I think oftentimes the guys that they invest money in, those are the guys that are in the lead to end up on the practice squad. So that's a guy that they may be looking at saying, hey, not now, but maybe later, we think that you have some potential to help a team out like us. So we're going to invest in you now. So you come to our team instead of somebody else's team, and we can get you on a practice squad and we can develop you here. But I think that one thing that we got to remember too is the NFL is a fraternity, right? So, and it's especially with teams like ours where we have so many guys that played in the league. They understand the struggle. They understand what these guys are going through. They understand what it's like for these guys being on a bubble. They got to look at these guys in the eyeballs and tell them why they cut them. So at the end of the day, if it's a guy that they can believe or that they believe can play in this league, they get on the phone and say, hey, man, we just don't have a spot for this guy, but he can play. You might want to take a look at him. And those conversations happen. I've heard about them happening so many times, man. So that would be another good reason to come to Detroit. Detroit is a player-friendly organization. Everybody in the league knows about it. Like, the players talk about it. And I do think that Dan Campbell is the type of guy that will get on that phone and be like, hey, look, man, this kid can play. Give him a look. I know you guys are hurting at X, Y, and Z. Get his kid a look, get him on the field, let him feed his family, man. So I think that could be another good reason. But you got anybody else that you want to talk about on here? Because I got something.
Last guy that really kind of caught my eye, someone who I was very familiar with, just when I saw the name, I didn't even need to look anything up about him, was Steel Chambers out of Ohio State. We're obviously Michigan fans.
Yeah.
The game's over. They're out of college now. If they can help the Detroit Lions, we're all for them. But he called me biased, but one of my favorite players in the NFL is Nick Bosa. Steel Chambers is a guy that we're familiar with. I am, anyways. I don't want to speak for you, but I like his hustle. I like his versatility. One time played running back, switched over to linebacker, hustles, plays hard, plays the game the right way, plays it 100% every single play. He's a little undersized for a linebacker, 6'1", 225 pounds. This kid gets blocked very easily, but I think we're talking about a guy who could shine on special teams, maybe like a coverage linebacker. I don't know where he would fall with his body type, 6'1", 225. It's kind of weird to call him a safety. It's kind of too small to be a linebacker. If you want to call it like some type of hybrid, I don't know, but maybe you bring him in for like coverage situations because he was very good in coverage. But when it came into like the run game and all that, like he got bodied up. So probably special teams, he would really have, like, if he took the route of like a Reeves Maben, that's probably his only hope. Like, if he's athletic enough to be out there on special teams and make some plays.
Steve
William,
I got to stand up for Germ here and apologize for the complete disrespect that was just.
Hey, Germ's one of the no. Germ's one of the best special teamers in the NFL, and he's paid as such.
I can't even believe you're mentioning this young man.
I was saying that's the route he would have to go to have an NFL career.
When I looked at him on film, I just seen a step slow. That's immediately what I saw. Just a step. Everything else that you said, I do agree with. He hustles. He plays hard. He'll stick his nose in there. But he just looked a step slow, especially for his size. We're talking about guys that are that size. They're like Fred Warner. Those guys are flying around, right? He's not flying around like that. He's hustling like that, but he's not flying around like that. And for those reasons, I think that he's fighting an uphill battle. But
they all are, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, that's just and again, while being critical, I want to say cheering for these guys, man. These guys have committed their life to this. They're trying to feed their families. I hope these guys catch on somewhere. And if they got the skills to play for the Detroit Lions, by all means, get out here and take care of business, man.
One last thing before I turn it over to you.
Yeah.
Because you said you had something else and definitely got my interest because the way you said it was kind of sexy. I think we'll get a heavy look at these guys in these joint practices who we bring in, because Detroit's not going to want to put out their starters to get banged up. Like, you still got to keep them fresh. You got to keep them, experienced. You want to get their legs under them. But for the most part, like, you want to see a lot of these UDFA guys. You want to see a lot of these late round picks. You want to give them every chance they can. Preseason games, I don't want to see starters. I hate preseason games. They do nothing but scare me. It's just a glorified practice. Really, the games don't mean anything. More harm comes than good. So I think that might be another reason why you sign with Detroit, is because hey, these guys are going to want to rest up all their starters. I'm going to get a lot of good game tape out here during the summer, during training camp and preseason games.
I'm interested to see how we handle it, because I know Dan has practiced guys a little bit harder and a little bit more than some other guys. I know that guys have had pads on a little bit more than some of these other teams. And I remember him making his whole spiel. I know you remember it, but
Hard Knocks.
Yeah, people watching, you may not remember it, when he was like, guys, I love you guys. All I think about is you guys. And I'm just trying to figure out what's best for you guys to have you prepared for the season. But don't think for a second that I'm just trying to be hard on you guys, or I'm just trying to, just bust your balls for no reason. Everything that we do here is with purpose. And I wonder how much he will play starters, how much they'll how many reps they'll get at practice. Will they be on snap counts because some of these guys are proven now, or because we got a lot of young guys. Young guys can handle more volume than some of the veterans. So with us being so young, is he still going to keep the volume high? Is he going to turn it down a little bit? Like where would it be? Somebody that sticks out in my mind is like Gibbs, Branch, Laporta, right there. Hey, these are young dudes. Like, all right, what's their volume going to look like? Hutch, what's his volume going to look like? He's proven himself, but is he going to have a high volume of snaps at practice? Is he going to get a high volume of snaps throughout this preseason? It'll just be interesting to see, something that I'm looking forward to see how he handles, man. So I got an eye out for it.
Yeah, there's one thing I want to see, and I know it'll never happen, and it's Penny Sewell in a red jersey this year. Don't touch him. Don't look at him. Don't even mention his name. Like, just give him his water. Let him run his laps. Get warm. Don't touch the guy. Okay.
He won't even stand for that.
What else you got for us, Will?
So to the contrary, and kind of blindsiding you a little bit, I apologize because I meant to send you this list. Actually, I might try to text it to you right now. But I went through and I kind of dug into some of the undrafted free agents that were still available, because that interests me, right? Because there were some guys out there that haven't signed with teams that interests me more than some of the guys that we signed. And I just wanted to talk about some of the things through going through this process and some of the thought processes while we had a moment. But one that sticks out in my mind that I know that we've both talked about and we're both familiar with is Cody Schrader out of Missouri. He still hasn't signed anywhere. Would that be somebody that you would be interested in coming and competing with Craig Reynolds?
Yeah, I think he would probably. I don't know. Craig Reynolds has got a lot of experience. He's been on the Detroit Lions for years. He knows how training camp works. Cody Schrader, Missouri running back, and like I said before, I could be wrong. I never double checked this. I believe he was Missouri's all-time leading rusher. Like, this kid runs hard. He's not the most
He does run hard.
Athletic kid. Like, he's not going to go out and run like a 4.3. But he's a good running back. I really like him. I remember watching him against the Ohio State in the bowl game this past year. He was running as hard as he possibly could, like trying to get tape out there. Yeah. Would I sign him? If at the time of this recording he's still a undrafted free agent, yeah, I would bring him in. At least, who's he going to compete with? Like you said, Craig Reynolds. I think Craig Reynolds eventually beats him out. So I mean, everyone we're bringing in, I think, is fighting for their lives to make special teams.
Yeah, we got Bam Knight too. That would be in the conversation too.
I would sign him. I just don't think anyone's really going to make this team. I think our roster is mostly set.
Yeah. Another guy,
maybe a surprise.
Yeah, another guy, actually two guys that stick out that haven't signed yet, and this is a kind of a big one too. A lot of the people that watch our show, which is Jalen Coker, went undrafted out of Holy Cross. Is he somebody that you would be interested in coming in here and competing?
I think we're just loaded at wide receiver, and the guy we already brought in from Illinois, I don't know. And then you look at, like, we mentioned Dylan Drummond, Tom Kennedy. Like, I don't know. Can I bring him in? Yeah, there's no harm in bringing anyone in. You could bring in 50 guys if you wanted, but that's just more people to cut, more people that are going to be disappointed. I think he could go to a school or a team, not a school anymore, and really try to fight for a roster spot. I don't think it's going to be on the Detroit Lions. Like, I'm not trying to give a vanilla answer, but I think our roster is set unless someone gets hurt.
See, I think Jalen Coker is a guy that could come in and give Donovan Peoples-Jones and Antoine Green a run for their money. I think he's a guy, the way that he catches the football. But I know that a couple people came for me in the chat when I said that Jalen Coker was on that back end of the list of the guys that I like that receiver. And they were like, a couple people were like, why? I'm nuts and blah, blah, blah. It's just that he doesn't seem to get separation to me. Does he catch the balls in traffic? Does he catch the balls that are tough catches? Does he run great routes? All of that. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it's his suddenness, because that's what I missed too. I didn't see, once he got the football, I didn't see suddenness. I didn't see elusiveness. I didn't see just separation, man. I didn't see a lot of separation. I seen some routes where there was miscommunications and he came wide open, but I didn't just see him just running past guys or him just getting into a break and getting out so fast that he created that separation. But as far as hands go, I saw a guy that could catch the football. So is he a guy that could beat zone coverage? Is he a guy that could learn how to be a little bit more sudden once he got into the league. Learning how to use his arms, learning how to use his feet, drop his shoulder pad level. Like I just wonder. I think he's got game, man. Him and then another guy that I really like, still would be a long shot, but went undrafted and isn't on a team yet, is David White Jr. He is a guy. I just love his releases. He's got 37 releases off of the line of scrimmage. He's another one though, not super fast, but he's another guy that I think could be interesting to see come into a camp and compete. So those are two off the top of my head at the receiver position. Going through this list of tight ends, I didn't have anybody.
I've really just been trying to keep track of the Michigan kids and where they were going, and I believe the 3 or 4 that didn't get drafted ended up on rosters. I think maybe the kicker is still out there, but I thought maybe I could be wrong. I thought someone was bringing him in as well.
Thought we brought the kicker in.
Did we? Was it us that brought him in? Shame on us if we don't know that. He's not on my list.
Yeah, I think he is on there. I'm pretty sure we brought him in.
But I know Harbaugh got Tucker. I think he got Barnhart. Went to the Chargers. But yeah, I've just been keeping track of that. Other than that,
James Turner, Michigan. Yeah, we brought him in.
He's with us.
We brought him in. Yep. Get it together, Steve. What are we doing here? Trying to run a business. What? Yeah, man. From a lineman standpoint, Drake Nugent was one that you're talking about Michigan kids. He was still out there. He was the number 1 rated interior lineman that didn't get drafted. I don't know, man. Really, those 2 receivers, man. And then this is a guy who I'm interested in what happened, because this was a guy that got talked about that he was going to be maybe a 2nd or 3rd round draft pick. Leonard Taylor the third out of Miami.
We talked about him early on.
Yeah, went undrafted. So I'm wondering, and he hasn't signed as of when we're recording this. So what's going on with that dude? Does he have some off the field issues? Because he's a big, strong, athletic kid. So there has to be something going on. But
correct me if I'm wrong, and I know we did it a long time ago, but I believe in our very first mock draft, I think it was you that had him in like the 2nd or 3rd round in our mock draft. That's how high we were.
I don't remember. Maybe.
If not, we for sure talked about him.
I know we talked about him, but he's a big, strong, athletic kid. I don't know. I didn't have him super high, but he's a guy that in the 3rd, 4th round, I'm surprised somebody didn't pick him up. And
what did he do? Did he rob an old lady? Like, what's the story here?
I don't know. That's what I'm interested to see. I tried to do a search earlier today and just kind of dig into what was going on with him, but I couldn't find anything. So whatever happened, they're keeping it close to the nest. But I don't know. I just hope Detroit does their due diligence. I don't want them to bring anybody in here that could be a cancer, but if he's got some type of injury concern or something like that, bring the dude in and let's see what he's got, but if it's a character issue, then, keep him away from us.
Yeah, no, thank you.
But those are the guys that, as I look through the list, man, that I was really kind of like, man, I would like to see those guys come and compete, especially Jalen Coker. I would love to see Jalen Coker come in and just give Donovan Peoples-Jones or Antoine Green a run for their money. I'm not saying that he would take the job, but I definitely think that he would be serviceable because they're 2 different guys. He's 6'2", 6'3", almost 200 pounds. I think he's about 205, 210. But he's a guy that's going to come in and be that big body X-style receiver where Isaiah is not going to be anywhere near the outside. He's going to be a slot guy and he's going to be a punt kick return guy. So I just think that it would give an opportunity for somebody to come in here, compete that could actually potentially win the job. But maybe they know something that we don't know, because I've been screaming it. Donovan Peoples-Jones is out here looking like David Boston. He out here looking like a bodybuilder, man. So maybe he's put in the work on the offseason. Maybe they've seen something and they were like, hey, man, we don't need to draft any of them receivers. We got our X in house and we're just fine. And there's still J-Mo could be potentially playing out there a little bit. So
I just absolutely can't wait for training camp. I think this is going to be if training camp is anything like the draft, I expect a lot of these practices to be sold out, standing room only, lots of fans there. I know I went to a couple last year. They're fun. They go fast. It's kind of a different type of environment. Fun times. Looking forward to the bloodbath, as Brad Holmes calls it, with some of these position battles. Like we're stacked pretty much at every position, so I can't wait to get into it. So, guys, talked about some undrafted free agents today. Some of you heard, some you haven't. Leave some comments down below. Let us know what you think. Hit that like button. If you're new, stick around, subscribe. We'll be back later with another show.
Peace.